everyone, I am so excited for today's video. I am really happy to be able to share some of my meditation tips. I have noticed in the comments that many of you have been asking for a specific video on meditation, so I thought I would do that and share all the tips and tricks that I find have really helped me on my journey of meditation. My meditation practice has changed me as a person so much. From 10 years ago when I started my practice to now, I really feel it has built such deep foundations for me to grow into the person that I feel comfortable being, to really settle into myself, but also be able to nourish myself in a way that really gives me the ability to nourish and help others to my best abilities. To be honest, I still feel like quite the beginner, but I truly believe that if I have had the fortune to have been introduced to the practice and to have been introduced to such incredible teachers and guides in my life, that I owe it to everybody to share whatever I have felt and whatever I have learned with other people, in hopes that it can also uplift you in some way too. Now, I just want to say that I truly believe that meditation is a practice for everyone, regardless of the religion that you follow, the spiritual path that you follow. You can use it to connect to yourself, the universe, or to God. I found that it helps me to connect to all three, but I'll probably say God because I found that that's my main focus during my meditation. But meditation is such a personal and intimate process that whatever your focus is during that time, it will help you connect to that. Benefits of meditation. I'm sure you've heard about all the scientific experiments that have been done to show the physical, emotional, and mental benefits of meditation, but I thought I'll just speak from my heart and share my own experience with you. There's a really beautiful analogy in the Vedas that compares our heart and our soul to a mirror. Just as we come into contact with so many different things in our day-to-day life, it creates dust on our heart or on our soul. And in the same way, when we look in the mirror, if it's covered in dust, we're not able to really see ourselves properly. But with the help of meditation, it says that it helps to uncover that dust that has accumulated on our soul or on our heart, to really be able to connect to ourselves better, deeper, and understand our true spirit too. It's like a conversation with God. It's a way for us to call out to God in a way that we have a relationship with God, rather than it being something where we are asking for anything. And this is our way of dedicating our time, our energy to build that relationship with God. Another thing that I have noticed when it comes to meditation is it really helps to clear my mind fog. It really helps me to see perspective for the rest of the day. It allows me to come into situations with a different energy, with a different perspective, but also react to things in a completely in a calmer way. It says that meditation can bring equanimity to our lives, and that means that we don't get too affected by the ups and downs, the extreme ups and downs that we go through in life. And we're able to react to them and perceive them with a steady mind. And so not only does it affect us less, but it also reduces the ups and downs of our emotions and our moods too. Now, I can definitely understand, I've had so many messages saying, I started meditation and it was going well, but I just found it so difficult to maintain it, to actually stay consistent with my practice. And so I thought, here's some practical tips that I wanted to share with you about how I have found my attention is kept during my practice and how I've managed to show up every single day to my meditation and continue with it for over 10 years. Creating your sacred space. Don't worry whether you just have a tiny space in a room or whether you have a whole room to create the space in. What's important is how you utilize the space and the energy that you bring into it. The best way to do this is to think about our 5 senses: sight, sound, scent, touch, and taste. So let's start with sight. Now, for me, I found that nature really helps me to deeply connect. I find that it connects me to Mother Earth, but also helps you to feel the vastness of the universe around you. And so whether it's looking out into nature, or if you don't have nature around you, looking at a picture of nature that you've experienced before that's given you that feeling, that helps you return back to that feeling again. And another thing I find really useful is if you are meditating with a mantra, which we'll talk about a little bit later, then having a mantra written out in front of you so you can see the words, and so your eyes are looking at the words at the same time. Regardless of the faith that you follow, meditation, I found, is part of so many different spiritual practices and religions. And so if you have a picture or a reminder of the qualities of the God that you connect to, then you can have that in front of you too. And lastly, if you don't feel like having any other stimulation, you could just look blankly at a spot on the wall. Scent. In the mornings when I sit down to meditate, I really love lighting an incense. And sometimes I'll also light Palo Santo or have some calming, soothing essential oils too. Now, there are many times I just love to meditate in silence and just listen to the words that I'm saying, the mantras that I'm speaking. But often if my mind feels a little bit distracted, I find putting on some meditation music or some devotional music that I find really connects to my heart really helps me get back into the mood and actually concentrate better. So when I meditate, I actually use beads, and I find that that helps engage my fidgeting tendencies, and so it really helps put the physical aspect of meditation into practice for me. Now, I don't recommend eating during meditation, but we can utilize our mouth by the mantras that we are speaking, and this way you literally are utilizing every single sense in this one practice to help you immerse, focus, and maintain attention during the entire practice. Now, I know that there are so many different types of meditation, and I really appreciate so many of them for different reasons. But I found for my daily practice that mantra meditation was the one that deeply connected for me. Man means mind, and tra means to transcend. In the Vedic culture, it's believed that every single sound carries energy. And so there are certain sacred words and mantras that are believed to cleanse our heart and have the energy to purify our minds and body too. Time of day. I don't know who needs to hear this, but just because you woke up late does not mean you can't meditate. Yes, waking up early to meditate is ideal. The reason is because before the sun rises, we have the energy of the moon, and the moon is calming and soothing. And so as soon as the sun rises, the sun actually brings the energy of passion. When the sun rises, we get up, we're ready to do things, our mind is racing and ready to go. And so ideally, rising before the sun rises actually gives us a calmer meditation practice. Once you wake up in the morning, you're almost starting with a fresh mind, before anything else has disturbed you, before you've come into contact with other people, before you've come into contact with noises and other stimulation. It's the time that your mind is probably the most peaceful. But that's often not possible. Sometimes with our work schedules, it's not possible for us to sleep early and wake up early. And so it's also okay to separate our meditation into chunks throughout the day. Maybe you do a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and a little bit in the evening. And actually, if you are new to meditation, often we find our mind gets quite distracted after a certain amount of time. And so instead of trying to refocus, it may be beneficial to step away for a little time and then come back to it again. Sincerity of your practice. Now, I recently heard one of my teachers say that spiritual means spirit plus ritual. And so if we end up doing a ritual without the spirit and without the heart behind it, it's just mechanical. And so actually there is a big difference between regulation, which is what is recommended, and being mechanical and doing things out of ritual. Now, regulation means you may wake up one morning, as I have done many times, and been like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I just don't want to go upstairs and I don't want to meditate right now. I just don't feel like it. But you pull yourself out of bed anyway. You get up those stairs and you say, you know what, meditation practice, you know what, universe, you know what, God, I don't feel like it today. I really don't. But because I want to show my dedication, because I want to show up for myself and for you, I'm going to do this practice anyway, and I'm going to give it as much heart as I possibly can. But ritualistic and mechanical is getting up out of bed, walking up the stairs, no heart, no spirit involved in it, just sitting there with your mind wandering everywhere, just waiting for the practice to finish. If we think about it as a relationship, we can completely understand. If our partner or our mother or anybody that we love needs us, even if we don't feel like it, we show up anyway. Why? Because we love them, because we want to show them that we are there and we are dedicated and we are committed to them. Posture. Every day for your meditation, every part of you should show up. So imagine you're going to a meeting with the Queen or the celebrity of your dreams. How would you act and how would you bring yourself to the meeting? In the same way, we have to think about, we have a meeting with God, we have a meeting with ourselves, and every day that is even more important than any other meeting that we have. So we have to turn up, we should sit in an upright position. It helps us maintain focus and attention, but also helps the channels in our body to stay open. Now, you don't always have to be seated when you're meditating. You can also pace up and down or even go for a gentle walk. But I find that the less stimulation I have around me, the better focus that I can maintain. And so if my feet aren't moving and I don't have too many things changing around me, that allows me to actually maintain my attention and focus in the moment. Real world practice. Now, we may meditate for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes, for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours. But what's actually really important is what are we doing for the rest of the time during the day, during the evening? What are we doing to enhance and nourish that practice so that when we come to it, we're able to utilize the time in the most efficient way? And so what I mean by that is we have to be conscious about everything that we're doing throughout the day. Is it something that's bringing us closer to a deeper connection during our practice? Or is it going to be causing our mind to be more distracted? And so simple things like what you're watching, what you're eating, what you're seeing, all those things that we mentioned, all the 5 senses, how are we engaging them? There's something in the Vedic culture called samskaras. And samskaras actually means impressions or footprints. And it says that every single thing that we allow into our senses actually leads to samskaras or footprints on our heart or on our soul. And so everything that we are doing actually impacts us to a deeper level. And so for me, I find, for example, if I watch scary things, I actually stopped watching scary movies a very long time ago, probably over 9 years ago now, because I was finding that even simple things like waking up and walking up the stairs was frightening for me because I was worried about what was going to be around the corner. What if someone had broken in? Same for me when I decided that I was going to go for my temple prayers every single day at 4 a.m. It was dark outside, it was gloomy, and I would feel fearful to even open the door. And I realized when I actually rooted back where that fear came from, it was a lot to do with what I was watching and taking in through movies and TV. And so when I stopped doing that, it took a while, but slowly I became less fearful of that. And I became more courageous because of it. And I truly find that those subtle things, we have to trace back and think, where are all of these things? Where are all of these thoughts coming from? And trace it back to something that's tangible that you can maybe change or substitute for another thing that's going to maybe have less of an impact. And when it comes to things like food and diet, well, I've spoken about this before, but to really help yourself feel energetic and not lethargic when you're waking up in the morning, actually having a smaller meal in the evening can help you with your sleep cycles and waking up feeling enthusiastic about your meditation practice. And lastly, the conversations that we are having. Now, with lots of our friends and family, it's quite easy to get into habits of speaking about other people, criticizing people, gossiping about people. And so actually what I noticed was when I started meditating, one, I started feeling that the enjoyment I was getting out of having those conversations was getting less. But also I found that I was making a conscious effort to stop those conversations from happening or to changing the direction of the conversation. And one of the things that really stuck with me that one of my teachers taught me a good few years ago was that criticism is the number one thing that actually acts as a hurdle or an obstacle in our path of spirituality. And he said that's because whenever we are criticizing or putting those thoughts even out into the universe, it actually plants seeds of negativity in our own hearts. And so we have a choice. Do we want to plant seeds of negativity in our hearts, or do we want to plant seeds of positivity? And which one do we want to nourish? And so on a daily basis, that's what we are thinking about through every activity that we're doing. Which seed do we want to water? Your expectations. For some reason, when it comes to spirituality, we expect to see results straight away. We think if there's going to be this magical fix to every single thing that one time we sit down to meditate. But the truth is, it's exactly like studying for an exam or taking a degree. We have to invest time, energy, effort, and enthusiasm into the practice. And so yes, it is magical. It is such a beautiful practice, but we may not see instant results. As much as you put into something, you're obviously going to get back out. And so if we only have one foot in and one foot out, and we're still doing the things that we know don't potentially nourish us in the way to enhance our practice, then it's almost like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to be very aware with how much we are putting in and be very real with the expectations that we have based on our input. And so if we are quite divided in our time, divided in our focus, then we will get the results of divided time and divided focus. And so I'm not saying to give up every single thing that you possibly think is going to impact you negatively. But what I will say is slowly choose things that you find are impacting you the most and find ways to either substitute them or to reduce them in some way. And I genuinely can say from my own experience that I went through a phase at the beginning of my spiritual practice where I was like, no, I have to stop everything. No movies, no TV, no hanging out with friends, no doing this, no doing that. You just meditate, sleep, go to work, come back and eat, and that's it. And it was actually quite an immature way of looking at spirituality in hindsight. And as much as it came from a place of enthusiasm, it also came from a place of passion and the need to expect results straight away. And I was like, no, I have to do all of this right away, and that's the only way I'm going to get result. But actually, you end up getting back into habits quite fast after that because you haven't set the pace and you haven't instilled the deep foundations of why you are reducing those things or why you are stopping them. And so I reset myself after that, and I slowly took out little bits at a time. And like I said, I just elevated what I was doing. So if I didn't want to watch scary movies, fine, let me watch a light-hearted comedy, something that doesn't leave such a deep impression. And so regardless of what that is that you're finding is your hurdle, find ways to swap it out with something that's going to help raise your consciousness instead. Mantras. Now, the reason mantras are so powerful is because of sound. Sound vibrations are so powerful that they don't just reach your ears, they actually can deeply penetrate your heart too. And if you think about music that we listen to, the emotion that you get from music, the emotion that you get from simple words that are spoken in songs. And in the same way, these mantras, these Sanskrit words that we speak, they also have the ability to penetrate our heart too in ways that can help cleanse and nourish us too. So the first one I'll tell you about is actually Om. Om is known as the universal sound. It says that it was the first syllable to be spoken in the universe. And it's known to be all-encompassing, and it helps to unite the mind, body, and soul. And the second mantra that I connected to on my journey was the Hare Krishna mantra. Now that is the mantra that I have been meditating and chanting for 8-9 years now. It's the one that connected to me deeply, and so that's why I'm sharing it with you. So I'm going to recite it for you once now, but I really found at the beginning of my practice to have the words in front of me really made such a difference. One, with pronunciation, and two, with getting used to the vibration and also the melodies that I felt came to me while saying the mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is the Hare Krishna mantra, and I'll explain what each word means, because really connecting with the words deeply and building a relationship based on each syllable and each word actually helps bring such sweetness to the practice. Pronunciation. So it sounded like there were lots of words in there, but there's only 3. There's Hare, which is the female aspect of God. It means the female divine energy. Krishna, which means all attractive. So whether it's the universe or the creation, you are inviting and calling upon every single thing that is the most attractive part of the world. That is what you're calling to yourself. And so that's Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Rama means actually reservoir of pleasure or reservoir of happiness. And so you're inviting happiness to yourself and really calling upon those names. And it says whatever we say is what we attract to ourselves. And so really saying those 3 things, you're inviting that energy, you're inviting those things to you into your heart. And I don't know about you, but often, even if I'm saying something, I can have a voice in the back of my head speaking something completely different. And so what I've learned and what I found has really helped me is even if my words are saying the mantra, in the background in my head, I have a sentence that I am continuously saying to avoid that chatter that can happen in the back of your mind. And for me, that is, please let me be of service. And so I have that ringing in my head constantly with the mantra, and I find that really helps to bring mood and heart into the mantra that I'm saying. And so actually what you'll find is when you start saying these mantras, sometimes I find myself singing them, sometimes I find myself saying them quite softly, sometimes quite loudly. And actually that's the beauty in sound, is that you can bring your focus and attention back to the mantra simply by changing a note, simply by changing the emphasis on specific words. And so I really find it helps if I pick one word. So I will say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you're basically emphasizing one particular word. Every time you find yourself getting distracted, pick which word you want to focus on and find a way to emphasize it in some way, whether it's changing the melody or changing the volume. That can really help bring your attention back also. Breathwork. When it comes to meditation, I know the hardest thing is to keep your mind from wandering. But one thing I found is so useful is breathwork. In yoga, it says that breathwork is actually the connector between your mind and your body. And so every time you find yourself wandering, your mind going different places, stop and find breath. Find your breath and really, really focus on the deep inhales and exhales. And also, there's a habit that I used to have of trying to push every thought out of my mind. I would aggressively try and push it out of my mind. And what I actually found was, if you think of your thoughts as clouds and imagine the breath as being wind, really find yourself just slowly allowing the thoughts and the clouds to be in your mind, but slowly breathing them away, gently breathing them away, not forcefully. Because we all know if you try and force something out, it's going to push its way back in. Another really useful tip if your mind is wandering is to keep a notepad beside you. And anything that you think of, write it down, jot it down, and reflect on it afterwards and wonder why it's come into your mind then. It may be simple things like what you have to remember in an hour's time, or what you forgot to do yesterday, and that's okay. But as long as you get it out of your system, you'll be able to refocus again. I used to be quite a reactive person before. I used to not be able to control when I used to get angry or upset, and I would say things that potentially I didn't mean and that I knew would be quite hurtful to that person if I was in a situation where I felt hurt. For a while now, I've been able to really refine that in not just blurting out anything that I think of, by really having control over the words that come out of my mouth. And so even if I am so upset and even if I am so angry, I find I'm able to stop myself and have a moment, even just that moment of pause before letting those words out of my mouth, and really thinking about other people in so much more of a compassionate way. I really, really find that it helps me to tune into other people deeper and understand things from other people's perspective, a less of a selfish attitude and mindset where I'm considering, wait, like what would they feel if I said this? How would they feel if I expressed myself in this way? And so I found that it's helped me be more compassionate, but also stopped me from erratically responding or reacting to things that actually really ends up ruining relationships in the long run. I've also found that as years have gone by with my meditation practice, it's really helped to connect to myself better, really becoming more confident. I used to be so shy that I literally couldn't walk into a room without my sister being in front of me or pushing someone in front of me before I had to walk into a room, let alone speaking to a camera. And I just found that because of my meditation, I understood my wants, my needs, and what I love doing and how I want to be of service to the world. And because I found what I love doing, I was able to become more confident in that, become more confident in my qualities and what I have to offer other people, by understanding myself better. And therefore I was able to give myself to people more. I think the more that you know of yourself, the more comfortable you're naturally going to feel to open your heart out more to other people. And I really find that, and this is definitely not in an egotistical way in any way, but I found that people are just so responsive now to when I am with them and connecting at such a faster pace with people rather than over 2 meetings or 3 meetings or 10 meetings. I feel I can connect to people on the first time I meet them because I'm ready to offer my heart. That comfort of being vulnerable and being able to just lay it all out and not be worried about whether they're going to receive it in a particular way. has really helped me build deep connections with people that I love so much that are in my life now. I really honestly don't know what I would have been like or who I would have been without my practice.
Cool. It's hard to imagine you being so shy.
Oh my gosh, so shy. Like I literally couldn't. My sister would make phone calls for me to the doctor's surgery because I was worried I'd say something wrong. I never had confidence in every single coursework piece that I did at university, my dissertation, everything. I would never believe that mine would be good enough, and I would always want someone else to check it or reword it or do something because I never believed in my own abilities. I always thought somebody else's would be better. And so it was actually really debilitating because I never felt I could do anything by myself. I never felt like I could do any part of my life, whether it was picking cutlery or whether it was to the bigger things like college applications or whatever. I genuinely felt paralyzed in my abilities because I hadn't figured out what my abilities were. And yeah, my mum literally always talks about me as like every time I go back to her, and especially through the transformative years of my meditation practice where I really deeply immersed in it, she would just feel like she saw such a transformation in me every single time I was going back. Yeah, she's always like, gosh, you were like such a caterpillar, and then like you just become this butterfly. But it's so beautiful to have that, like, and also deepen my relationship with my parents as well. Like every relationship I've had has become so much sweeter by me becoming more aware of myself. And the reason I know it's meditation is because that's the only thing I've maintained throughout those years. And so nothing else, I'm not able to like hang on to anything else in my life, but meditation has been that one thing. And I find that it can't have been anything else if it's consistently helping me do that. Okay guys, so these are my tips and tricks to start your meditation practice and to maintain it. And I deeply hope that it does help you in some way, that it helps to progress your spiritual journey and deepen your meditation practice, but also for you to see that it is possible and it is something that takes time and effort, but does have result in the end. You know, you can take baby steps. Like it doesn't have to be all of these things that I mentioned. Take what you felt most connected to from what I said and implement those. But don't be fearful of it. Don't be scared of it. Don't worry about the end result. Just focus on the now. And just immerse yourself in the practice as much as you can. And I truly believe, like, without a doubt, that you will see something beneficial that comes from it. So yeah, sending you all so much love and so much gratitude. And thank you again so much for all your enthusiasm and love that you shower me with. That's part of what keeps me going. And I feel so grateful to have all your love and your kind wishes with me always. So thank you again. Sending you so much love. It's springtime. Subscribe, like, comment, and share some blooming love.